whole new global talk show, Newstellers. Let's meet our panelists. Summer is in full swing, and it's that time of year when I think a lot of people feel pressure to look their best so that they look good in tank tops, shorts, beachwear, what have you. Do any of you guys feel that pressure here?
Well, we are doing the last efforts to look great in summer, and well, I guess everyone wants to look a little bit better, right?
Yeah, I want to look better in a tank top. My problem is I'm lazy, so I just don't have the energy to like go to the gym every day. So fortunately, here on Newstellers, we didn't have to wear beachwear today.
Well, I think we all, to some extent, want to look our best. I think it's part of human nature to be attracted to the beautiful and the handsome. But one restaurant in China actually took this concept one step further by offering a free lunch if you're attractive enough. Let's take a look at this article. A restaurant in Zhengzhou, central China's Henan province, offered free meals to its most attractive clients. According to Xinhua News, those hoping for a free lunch have their looks evaluated by a panel of local plastic surgeons in order to score top marks and a meal. So I'm guessing this article received some mixed responses on the internet, am I right?
Yeah, it sounds very strange, and I think maybe even a little bit outrageous to a lot of people, but I suppose it's an extension of how we value looks anyway. I mean, for one thing, nightclubs do this kind of thing all the time.
That's true.
They don't usually say it out loud, but it's pretty clear, I think, to a lot of people that the most exclusive venues often have a policy where they want to let in the young and beautiful ahead of everyone else.
Indeed.
I think it's a good marketing strategy. It's just using the image of this lookism to make business, and they make people to have fun. I think people go there to get evaluated, to get if they get some discount for being handsome. So I think it's a good marketing strategy, and probably the owner of this restaurant is a smart guy that wants to do something new that can improve his business.
So it's
But
not to be
what about the
taken too
people they say like,
seriously.
okay, well you're ugly, you don't get a free meal, you have to pay? Won't those people just say, forget it, I'm not gonna eat
Why
here?
those people would go there?
Why would they go
They
there?
can go to any other restaurant.
Well, but I'm just saying maybe it's not a good business deal, because if you tell somebody like, no, you're ugly, we're not giving you food, you now have to pay, that person might be like, I'm not giving you my money, you just called me ugly, I'm gonna go somewhere else.
So that's what they point in some certain public. It's like a really expensive restaurant, don't expect poor people to go there, or a really cheap restaurant, don't expect rich people to go there. You just point some audience, and then those people would come to your restaurant. Probably handsome people that want to be like proud and evaluated. Oh, I got 20%. Oh, I got
but
30%.
there's not enough
This is
good-looking
business.
people to have a restaurant that caters to only, I'd say like a better business strategy would be to have a restaurant that's for ugly people, because there are more of them.
Yeah, actually, I agree with that. I think life is already quite unfair for not so good-looking people. So maybe they should have the free lunch. Why we make their life more unfair for them? Maybe good-looking people should pay double.
I think most of it is a large bit of fun, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
But yeah, it's bringing about a heated debate very early on in our topic. Shall we get into the meat of it? Our topic today is I'm Enough. So, I mean, as the saying goes, we shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but it's hard to set aside looks completely. So let's check out this story first before we get into our topic in more detail. A professor of economics at the University of Texas at Austin, Daniel Hammermesh, argues in his book, Beauty Pays, Why Attractive People Are More Successful, that strict legal protection is required to prevent beauty discrimination. According to his data, he says was collected in the 1970s, good-looking workers earn a total of $230,000 more than those with below-average looks. Are you surprised by this data?
Not really. Actually, I wrote a story related to this issue earlier this year about a education website, and they exclusively hired young, attractive women to teach their English courses. Even the site's name was English Goddess. So that was their whole marketing pitch.
Okay.
And it's not at all surprising to me that it opens up opportunities to you in your life. There's some industries that are massively concerned with looks, such as acting, music industry to a lesser
Yeah.
extent. And from there's many other examples.
Indeed.
Then is the other side too. Of course, handsome and beautiful people, they have more opportunities in life. They can be hired better for jobs, they are more popular in the school, and they have kind of an easier life just because of their appearance. We kind of agree with that. So that makes below average people to develop other skills. So they make more efforts in their children and they develop other skills. So finally, they get more competitive in the future.
Well, that makes me
Okay.
think of the comedian Chris Farley. He was this really big fat guy, and when he was a kid, like to prevent people from making fun of him, he tried to always like crack jokes and like try to. He knew he wasn't going to be popular at school because of his looks. And I actually went to school with a pretty like overweight kid who was really, really funny. Even though he was overweight, like everybody liked him because he was funny and he was a really cool guy. And I mean, as Atta said, like it gives you a kind of incentive to like overwhelm.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
think even though I think being beautiful or handsome is a plus, people can also receive resentment for that. I mean, I think most of us will be able to
true.
think of a situation where the really good-looking guy or the really beautiful woman is kind of disliked a little bit, or people like to talk about them behind their back because they make them feel uncomfortable because they get all the attention from the opposite sex, or they
Right.
get, they always light up the room, and people don't always like that competition.
And maybe, I mean, concerning the study you mentioned, Sujong, I wonder, I think the causality is not so obvious. Maybe the correlation goes backwards. Because you are rich, then you have more time to do sports, take care of yourself, buy nice clothes, maybe do plastic surgery.
an
So maybe
interesting perspective.
if you are rich, then you can look more beautiful. And usually people who are rich anyway, because they are rich, then they look attractive, they are more self-confident. So it can go
Okay.
backward. So we have to be careful with these kind of studies.
But what do you think are the causes behind this kind of lookism culture in today's society? Where do you think it stems from?
I think it has something to do with our move away from being in a print-based culture where we mostly read and where we didn't have access to so many images, to being in this very image-based culture where like we're constantly looking at like social media feeds. There's a very interesting book about this a few years ago called Empire of Illusion by an American journalist named Chris Hedges. And his argument was that it used to be that like the way we processed information was by reading it on paper. But now we mostly see like, a rapid succession of these like very big and very vivid images. And that has made us a more image-conscious society.
Yeah, I mean, in the past, you might pass a beautiful person on the street and say, oh, they're beautiful, I'd love to date them, or I'd love to look like them. But now we have a constant feed and stream of the most perfect physiques imaginable. You can follow a fitness channel on YouTube or something, or on Instagram, and you'll just see, six-pack after six-pack after S-line or whatever. I mean, even though I do think it's inherent in human nature to want to be attractive, there's now just an infinite amount of information reinforcing this idea that perfection is out there and it's attainable. And obviously, not everyone can actually look a certain way in reality.
And I agree with what you're saying, but I think as well there is another element to it, is that we are living in increasingly competitive society. We're living in a very capitalist environment where everybody, like the competition is really, really high. So you have to put all your specs, as you say in Korea, on your side, and physical beauty is part of it.
Also, these days with internet and with all the media, every resource is closer. It's easier to, I mean, if you just want to look good, probably you can just find some information in the internet and do yourself. You can do some exercise plan, you can do something in your face, you can get some tricks to get better, you can compare to the models in internet or the person that you want to look like. You can check Instagram for what you want to look better. So I think they give us all the tools for improving our physical appearance.
All right, so we've covered how the modern world always seems to be craving beauty, but there seem to be some new trends in this lookism culture. So we had our reporters at 아리랑 TV share their thoughts on this.
I'd say that I'm on a diet 365 days a year. I look at these celebrities with great bodies, these pictures every day, because since I'm a reporter myself, I think as a TV person, it's also kind of your job to please the viewers.
Especially in Korea, where it's such a competitive job market, you do need to have a good impression, first impression, you do need to stand out. And I think having a good appearance is almost a basic requirement now.
I think one of the major trends is people undergoing plastic surgery to get a good job, to be hired in a company that they want to work in. Just like speaking good English, like fluently speaking English or Chinese or Japanese, having a nice looking face is just like another competitive edge. So I think that's definitely a new trend. I think it's okay if it's just a little desire that you want to look prettier, so why not? Just go through it and live a life that you want to live.
Okay, so some thoughts from our very own Arirang TV reporters there. One point I thought was interesting was the plastic surgery in order to improve your job prospects or even to do better while you have that job. What did you think of that?
I mean, I think it's okay if you're unhappy with a certain part of your body and you've thought through the risks and the implications and you're really sure that you want to get surgery. I think that's essentially okay, but I do think it's a bit of a shame that people think they need to get surgery just to get a job.
I was reading this article in the French press that it was in Korea. It was about Korea, that it shows how extreme it can go. You have a surgery clinic that offer some kind of surgery operation for your face according to the company you're targeting. And they were mentioning there is two main airlines company in Korea, and they're looking for a different kind of face. So according to the company you're targeting, you will have a different surgery.
That is fascinating.
But sometimes I think that people say that I made surgery because I want to get a job, and I think it's just an excuse. I think most of the people, they make surgery to look better because for their personal pride. And actually, in the other hand, I have to say that I knew cases about very beautiful women that they're in a normal job, like journalists or lawyer, and then their co-workers, they discriminate them because they think they got the job because they are beautiful, and they were kind of smart people, but everybody thinks that those women, she got the job because she's beautiful, but she's stupid, and probably she's not stupid at all. And she's a very smart woman, and she faces that discrimination just for being beautiful.
Well, I think you touched on an interesting point when you mentioned someone's personal pride, because I think if we feel like if say I really hated my nose, and that my nose made me kind of sheepish, or it hurt my confidence, and then for the sake of my career, for the sake of my love life, for the sake of everything, I changed my nose, and then after that I was really confident. And as we feel confident and we feel strong, we're more likely to be successful because we'll work harder and we'll approach situations with more positive attitudes. So I think it kind of goes hand in hand. Like you can get a plastic surgery because you want to change how people see you. You can also do it because you want to change how you see yourself, and confidence can be an outcome of that.
So, I mean, we've talked about confidence and plastic surgery becoming more common, and I think the problem is that, if people make negative comments about you, and those negative comments are relatively common, it starts to get to you, doesn't it? It starts to affect your confidence. So let me share a story with you about a woman who struggled at work because of her looks. Shirley Ivy sued her former employer in Washington for lookism. She left her job because of stress after allegedly being told by a supervisor that he would like her more if she was prettier. So lookism seems to be the new racism these days. Do you think her actions were justified, though?
I don't think suing your boss would be the best decision. I think suing is something so normal in America that doesn't really make a point. Of course, the boss shouldn't say that to her, but I think suing is too much. I don't know, what do you guys think?
There is a lot of bosses who do that, so maybe once you should make an example. Okay, this is not okay, and maybe that would scare away other bosses to stop doing this, because it's a very, very stupid comment.
What I thought when I read this story was that she would really struggle in a lot of Korean workplaces, because it is extremely common for people to comment on their colleagues' looks. They look tired, they look like they put on weight, they look good as well, it's not always negative.
Well, and you look tired is code for you look bad today.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not a good thing. But sometimes it can be positive, but it's just so common. I mean, I think there's a bit of a cultural difference there. I think in the United States probably, and in a lot of Western cultures, it's just not as okay to just talk about someone's appearance just openly if you're not close to them. Or
Can you guys think of any stories based on people's appearance?
I just read this surprising story about a German plastic surgeon who married a very plain-looking woman, and he wanted to make her like his ideal wife. So he sculpted her, and she had to go through 8 different operations. She got injected 1.6 kilograms of silicone, and she ended up with huge breasts, and she was a waitress, and she became a model. And the guy was very, very happy with his creation.
Think of what 1.6 kilograms of silicone must look like.
It's a lot.
Well, I read a story on the topic of appearance about an Italian university, a fairly prestigious institution called La Sapienza, and they had on campus they had like an official glamour contest, and they offered plastic surgery as the prize. And so after that they were criticized for being a fine institution of higher learning and offering plastic surgery as like something that their students should aspire to. So. That was probably an error in judgment on their part.
I think so.
Yeah.
And with anything, I think, with plastic surgery, too much can be a very, very bad thing. And this obsession with beauty can sometimes turn into tragedy and, in extreme cases, even death. Any stories related to these kinds of incidents?
I read a very sad story about a young woman from England. She ordered diet pills off the internet and she overdosed on them and she died. And she was just 21 years of age.
That's very disturbing.
I know this case of that really famous French girl that died in 2000. She was called Lolo Ferrari. She was known for having the biggest breasts in history, according to the World Guinness of Records. She died with 37 years old in 2000 because she got really, really depressed with those kind of big breasts that she couldn't even breathe sometimes because of the weight of the breasts. That was a little bit controversial because it could be like her husband was accused of killing her. But finally, the thing is that she ate a lot of pills and she got completely crazy about that.
Well, there was a case in Argentina of this former, I think she was like Miss Argentina, she was like a beauty queen. As her looks, unfortunately as we get older, our looks kind of start to fade, and she had a really tough time accepting that. She was having a lot of surgery, and she had this really extreme kind of surgery on her posterior, on kind of her lower body, and something went terribly wrong with it, and she ended up dying.
Oh, God.
And so I think her story was kind of a cautionary tale. If we tie so much of our identity into our appearance, that can be dangerous because inevitably, we're going to lose our appearance. Nobody's beautiful forever. Everybody ends up, as you get older, there are younger people who are better looking than you, and you start to get wrinkles, and you're just not that attractive anymore. So I hope that as a society we put more and more importance on looks. We would look to her case as a reason to be careful about tying too much of our identity up in the way we look.
So, some disturbing stories, and I think it just underlines the fact that with anything, too much is never good. And also, I think you really have to look out for your safety. Plastic surgery is all well and good, but safety first. So we've been talking about lookism and this obsession with beauty in today's culture, but there are people who are taking a stand against this around the world as well. I believe in France.
Yeah, we have
become
very
popular.
recently, in last May, we voted a law, and I know Atta disagrees, but I'm very proud of that law, that's totally banned to hire a model whose body mass index is below 18, and you can even receive up to 6 months of jail time by doing so. And there is a second law that was voted too that prevents, you cannot publish a picture on a magazine that was photoshopped without a disclaimer. If you Photoshop a picture, then it should be labeled as, oh, this picture was photoshopped. And the idea is to fight against this tendency to, this extreme weight loss by some young women. And
actually, there are other countries that did that. Like, for example, the state of Israel. They ban the models to have less than 18.5 of body mass. And actually, they call that law the Photoshop law because it's gonna make editors to use Photoshop much more.
There's also sort of an absurd intellectual inconsistency here, which is that, nobody's talking about a law banning people who are massively overweight. And the reality is that a lot more people are actually dying of being overweight than underweight. across the developed world, obesity is a health epidemic.
Yeah.
And so I've yet to see any adverts or any lawmakers calling for adverts to ban plus-size models. I mean, if we're going to be consistent about it, it would seem to me that that's something we should do, because that's apparently having more of an influence on people's behavior than the opposite of that.
That's an
Yeah, but their
interesting
behavior
point
is
because
motivated by something else. They're not motivated by a desire to be obese. Like nobody's eating a lot of food saying like, oh, if I could only
Right.
get fat, you know.
True,
But whereas like I think the French law was motivated by like, let's not promote images of people that are unhealthy that are then going to change people's behavior.
I mean, we're certainly not at the point where it's considered more beautiful to be very overweight than to be skinny, but there is also a movement to make, and I'm not talking about a few pounds overweight, I'm not talking about, you know, a slightly high BMI. I'm talking about morbidly obese people who have been held up as sort of spokesmen, or usually women, for sort of a rebellion against unhealthy beauty standards. But, you know, actually, I'm not sure if that's such a good idea either, because the scientific reality is that a certain BMI isn't generally good for your health. And, you know, while I've no desire to make anyone feel bad about their appearance, that's also just sort of a reality.
Okay, so two sides to every story then. So I think our topic today has been a good opportunity to reevaluate physical beauty and whether it's become this very, very unattainable high standard, and whether it's actually causing unfair discrimination in society and what we can do about that. So let's wrap up, as always, with our final headlines for today. Should we start with Atta?
Okay, I would say beauty is important, but don't get too serious about it.
Okay, Fred?
You're probably beautiful, so you probably don't need plastic surgery.
Stephen?
I would say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, not a plastic surgeon.
Okay.
I would say beauty is worth caring about, but not worth obsessing about.
Okay, so some wise words from our panel, who are all beautiful inside and out, by the way.
Oh, Susan, you're gonna make us blush, aren't you?
Thank you for joining me today on another fascinating topic, and we'll see you all next week. And join us viewers next week for a whole new global talk show, Newstellers. We will be open for any opinions or requests on our official website, as well as our Facebook page.
As more and more people alter their faces surgically, these face readers are running into like literally new faces that they've never seen before. Not an entirely scientific practice.
Did anyone here get plastic surgery? Not yet, okay.
Women in Nigeria use products to lighten their skin. In a lot of Western countries, white people are always trying to get tans.
American women, they want to have the same kind of arms that Michelle Obama is plastic, so you're fine.
Thank you. I've been working out.